Welcome and bienvenue and welcome to another exciting episode of This Ain't No Game. This week's cinematic disappointment is Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, which came out on DVD and Blu-ray earlier this week. As the title suggests, this is a movie that tries to tell the origin story of the fierce, thick-thighed Chinese world warrior from the Street Fighter series. There's no continuity of story or style from the Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter movie, which is probably for the best, though it also plays pretty fast and loose with the existing Street Fighter fiction, using Chun-Li's quest for revenge against the evil crime lord Bison as the basis for a movie that never really evokes the Street Fighter feel. Directed by Andrzej Bartkowiak, the Polish director, also responsible for the Doom movie, Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li starts off with Chun-Li as an aspiring young concert pianist who, in her spare time, practices wushu out in the front yard with her dad. That is until Bison and his thugs show up and kidnap her dad, which leads her years later on a quest to find Bison and exact some kind of vengeance. After traveling to Bangkok on the advice of an ancient Chinese scroll that shows up mysteriously, and spending some time wandering around aimlessly, Chun-Li is taken under the wing of Gen, a generically humble and powerful wushu master who also has old ties to Bison.
Anger isn't gonna guide you. Trust me, I know.
We also see the parallel story of Charlie Nash, a brash Interpol agent who's been chasing after Bison as well.
This guy walks through the raindrops.
It's not a complex movie, but The Legend of Chun-Li has a hard time weaving its various story threads together in any meaningful way. It tries to treat everything with a real serious gravity, but it fails pretty spectacular to that end.
That's it?
I'm sorry, Charlie.
Part of the problem is that the tone of the movie is just all over the place. For all the long, dramatic stares and tragically ill parents and fakey, ponderous Chinese mysticism and somber vows of revenge,
Damn you!
there's a goofy wirework fight scene, an awkward lesbian dance sequence, or a half-hearted romantic subplot to crap things up.
I love this job.
Even if it leaned more towards either the cop drama or the Hong Kong wushu fantasy elements, the more significant problem is that The Legend of Chun-Li is stocked with breathtakingly terrible cast that's forced to wrap their lips around lots of corny-ass, sincere dialogue. Even though it's supposed to take place during Chun-Li's formative years, Kristen Kruk is just too young and slight to fill Chun-Li's formidable hair buns, and her method of crinkled foreheads and glassy eyes can't really deliver on the melodrama either.
Is there anything you want to say before we get this over with? Alright.
Neil McDonough's Bison rocks a pretty good sociopathic glare, and you know a guy is evil and powerful while he eats a classy dinner while his henchmen brutally slaughter his enemies outside. His origin story involving some ritual where he transfers all of his good into his unborn daughter is appropriately ridiculous, but his plot to use criminal influence to lower property values in a waterfront slum, buy them up, and then demolish everything to make way for expensive luxury housing makes him seem more like an unscrupulous real estate developer than a truly diabolical, power-hungry crime lord. Bison's backed up by Michael Clark Duncan as Balrog, who's portrayed as a pretty generically monosyllabic, muscle-bound thug, as well as Vega, who's played by Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas, and who is literally in the movie for a minute. Even the insignificant supporting characters are bad, but the real MVP of awfulness in The Legend of Chun-Li is Chris Klein as Charlie Nash.
You just inherited a big problem.
Who could not be worse at playing the tough and brash American who's come to set things right. While other characters manage to deliver lines without sounding ridiculous, every single appearance by Chris Klein is punctuated by an embarrassing line reading.
I can imagine.
How's aggressive working for you?
Shut up.
You don't want a ticket to this dance, Detective.
Back in business, huh?
Now he's the last man standing.
Looks like you got that down. That had to be done.
By the time I got to the end of the movie, I had developed a Pavlovian cringe whenever I saw his stupid face and his long, greasy hair. For all the liberties that The Legend of Chun-Li takes with the source material, which are, frankly, too numerous to count, the thing that irritated me the most was the way characters would pronounce Shadaloo, Bison's criminal organization, as Shadaloo.
An organization called Shadaloo.
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 Shadaloo. Shadaloo.
Shadaloo.
I mean, I get that Shadaloo is a pretty goofy-ass name for a sinister syndicate, but changing it to Shadaloo isn't much better, and it just serves to piss off those who might notice the difference. Considering the care that went into the rest of this movie, I suspect that just like one person mispronounced it, and then everybody else just kind of rolled with it. The only Street Fighter nod in The Legend of Chun-Li that's worth a damn is Chun-Li's use of the spinning bird kick. Spinning bird kick! Which the movie actually sets up pretty well with this little bit of flashback.
这是当年爸在印度旅行的时候，一个朋友送给我的。这种鸟没有自我保护的能力，所以只有不断的飞舞，才能够生存，才能够保命。
谢谢爸爸。
There's also a sledgehammer subtle reference to the actual Street Fighter tournament at the end. Though with the way the story wraps up, that movie will potentially bear even less of a resemblance to the actual Street Fighter story.
Ryu something?
Shut up.
Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li feels like someone took the template for a low-key Hong Kong action movie, slapped a few Street Fighter names on it, and called it a day. It's a re-envisioning by people who can't see. This is number 14. I call it the Wet Willie, and it sounds like this. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of This Ain't No Game. I'm Ryan Davis, reminding you that just repeating something your enemy said earlier is not really a zinger.
Fathers always have a soft spot for their daughters.
Fathers always have a weakness for their daughters.